All right, welcome everybody. Week 6 live lab. Some lead up into this one. We've got our Exchange server all set up. We've tested sending email internally between accounts. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to set up a Windows workstation, join that workstation to the domain that we created on the Exchange server, and install Office 2010, and then configure an Outlook client with with one of the user's mailbox that we created, and play with a little bit, play with the email in that manner. So first thing we want to do is we want to get Windows 7 downloaded. I happen to have the DVD already loaded in my laptop here, but you can access Windows 7 from within your MSDNAA account. And let's see what we've got here. I just logged in. Let's try the DreamSpark. Okay, so going right there, you can see that the Windows 7 comes up there. I'm going to click on that. If you wanted to use Windows 8, you can, but I'm just going to use that just because it's it works with the 2010 Office as well. It does on Windows 8 or Windows 7 as well, but I'm just going to use the 7 just to use it. So just make sure when you do download it that you don't download the debug, check, build, all that stuff. We want to do this one, the Windows 7 Professional with Service Pack 1, 3264-bit. Doesn't matter, we can install the 32 because we're not going to put a lot of memory on this anyways. So just make sure you do that, download it, and then after that we're going to go back to similar tasks that you've completed previously. We are going to create the virtual machine. It already sees that I have the Windows 7 in there already. Otherwise, if you just have the ISO that you downloaded from the MSDNA account, you can point it at the ISO right there. I'm going to hit next to get this going. I'm going to try to get away without putting any type of product key. It's not the same with Windows Server 2008, where you can get it for a trial for 60 days and extend that. The desktop operating systems usually have a short trial, roughly like 3 days, I think, something like that. But I don't think it's going to hinder us to complete what we want to complete in the lab for here. So we're just going to select, it's got to be Windows 7 Pro, of course, or Ultimate. Those are the only ones that are capable of joining a domain. And I'm not going to put a password on for this one. We don't need a product key. Yes, I want to continue. And we'll just Windows 7 is fine. I'm going to point it at my own area because I have a data volume on my PC itself. So I'm just going to put it, even though I'm not using VirtualBox, I'm going to create a new folder here and do Win7, and that's where I want it to go. 60 gig, that's fine. I'll split it into a virtual or into multiple files. I don't think we're going to use a full 60. Customize hardware. Again, we want to do this bridged. That all looks good. That's my correct NIC, so I'm good. And creating the disk. And once this is done, it should start the install process for Windows 7. Okay, the disk has been created, so now it's just powering up and it's loading the Windows files needed to complete the install. Almost done loading the files here. Once it's done, you'll see the familiar Windows install screen for Windows 7, something I'm sure many of you have done a time or two yourself. Starting Windows here, and I'm going to come back after this process is complete to work on the configuration of the workstation, just get it all prepared. Okay, Windows is all installed here, so we're all set to go. What we want to do is, one thing we can do just to make things a little bit easier is change the performance on it just to make it so it's best performance. It is a lab environment and we don't really care about all the arrow and all that stuff, and let's, we've allocated memory. It's going to be running less than optimal, so we're just going to make it so that it runs a little bit smoother for us. Now, I already have my Exchange server running just to demonstrate something here. And what I want to demonstrate is the IP address of my existing Exchange server, which is 55. So what you want to do is, normally you wouldn't have to do this, but because of for the sake of the lab environment, we're assigning a static IP to our Windows server, or our Windows machine. So when we assign that IP address, what we want to do is pick another IP address just like we previously did for Exchange server. So 192.168.1.56. Since I had 55 on the other one, I'll just make that 56. The gateway is still going to be the same gateway as what you configured on your own Exchange server. However, when we do DNS, we need to put in the IP address of the server, of the Exchange server. So in my case, it's 192.168.1.55. And the reason why we need to do this is because we need to put, it's not that you're putting the Exchange server, you're putting the DNS server or the IP address of the domain controller. That's what's getting put here for DNS, because that's what's going to handle DNS for the workstation itself. Of course, in a real world scenario, we would have DHCP set up. DHCP would already kick out the correct DNS server, which would be a domain controller, a first and second on each workstation on the network. But the reason why we need to have this specific IP here and the Exchange server running is because when we attempt to join this to the domain, you need to make sure that the DNS is set to the domain controller itself. We're not going to be able to join the domain unless that's done. Once I do that, I should be able to gain access directly to the internet. Because our internet access is being handled through the domain controller, which is also our Exchange server. If I were to shut the Exchange server down, I would lose internet to this workstation. And that's why we set these to bridged, because we're running off of our network and we're seeing these as though it is another device on our network that we can physically touch and see. Okay, so that's that. So being that we can get out to the internet, we could then go to Rasmussen's site, and from there you'll be able to download Office 2010 Pro Plus from within the Week 6 Live Lab area. That download will be available there. So I'm just going to get that downloaded from where I have it, and then come right back to continue. Okay, I have Office downloaded. I also have the key that we're going to be using. It's going to be a trial key. So you'll see once I fire up this executable, I'm going to highlight this key and copy and paste it. And I believe this key that I have is actually just for home and business, but at the very least it does come with Outlook, which is all we're really concerned about for the sake of this lab. Okay, and let's paste it in there. and you'll see that's going to validate it, and it says Home and Business 2010 trial, and that's fine. You don't need to automatically activate it. Accept, continue. Let me see what we have here. Yeah, that's fine. And let's just go to install now, and that's it. So once Office is installed, then we're all set, and then you're ready for the live lab that we're going to be doing in week 6. All we're looking to do is to join this PC to the domain, and then from there we will configure the Outlook client based on the user that we add from Active Directory. Whatever users we're working with, we can actually create multiple profiles on this Exchange or on this Windows 7 machine if we want to, and we can set up separate Outlook profiles and have them interact with each other through sending and receiving email internally. And that would be the extent of the lab that we're going to do, just the experience of configuring Outlook with Exchange, and and making sure that it connects correctly, and that would be about it.